So I've just recently had the first consultancy meeting with the head of the school and council HR. There's a little bit of a twist I didn't count on. So anyway, I'm going to go through that, and then to help out anyone else that's in a similar situation, I'll go through some calculations of how much money you can expect to get if you are facing redundancy. Obviously, these calculations will just apply to the UK and sort of generic jobs. Some jobs, they may pay a little bit extra, they may do something different, but this is just the statutory redundancy payment. So just bear that in mind. This is kind of like the basic that the government says this is what you should get when or if you get made redundant. So let's get into it. So last video, I talked about the 20-day consultancy period and the hope that I might be absorbed or redeployed within the council, where it meant continuous service. I'd get to carry on with my pension and other benefits and that sort of thing. So had the meeting. The meeting was myself, a representative from council HR, or OD as they called it, and then it's used to be HR, then it's OD, and now it's HR again. It's confusing stuff. And obviously the head teacher of the school. So the head teacher of the school just started off saying the reasons behind the redundancy. And firstly, they feel that most of the work I do currently could be absorbed by the management team. You know, the senior leadership team is a lot bigger than it was when I started. When I started, there was the head, there was a head of each campus, and that's kind of it. Now they've got the head, deputy head, two assistant heads, and so on. So they've got a lot more capacity there, and some of the people that are there are much better with data. So it kind of makes sense, though the head isn't as tech savvy as previous heads. No, it's kind of what it is. So that was the basic outline for the first point. The second point is cost. You know, the school is no longer in special measures. They're not getting as many handouts from the council, and their budget is horrendous. As you can imagine, it's not the biggest school in the world. It's about 70 pupils ish. And unfortunately, they also need quite a lot of support staff because some of the pupils need, you know, one-to-one help. So they need one trusted adult with each pupil quite often, so you need a lot of staff for that, and staff are the most expensive thing in school, especially me, obviously, because being a data manager, and I'm not cheap. So it makes sense from a business perspective why they make those decisions. But he did also say, fair play to him, it was quite a nice thing. He did want to state on record how professionally thought I was and how well I'm doing, just doing the job, continuing and just, you know, doing what's needed and helping with the transition. So it was really nice to kind of hear that from him, that he's, you know, he's sad with the perspective of losing me, because we have got on really well since he's been there, and I have helped him a lot since he started. He's not the original head that was there when I started. He's the third head that's been in the school since I've been there, and when he started, he kind of, you know, he was thrown in the deep end by the previous head. He was the kind of deputy head at the time when he came into the school. It was a position he applied for, and then he didn't get a lot of support from the head. The head then left rather abruptly, and he was kind of shoved into the head position. And it was just like, as you can imagine, he needed so much support from the admin team to kind of get where he needs to be and get more people in place, because he didn't have a management team. So he had to get them all in place and get everything up and running. So, you know, there's been a lot of interactions, and I have enjoyed working with him, I must admit. It's been quite an interesting time. There's been highs, there's been lows, but it's kind of nice to, even with all the bad, you know, and knowing they don't need me, knowing that it's not a decision that he's made lightly, and he still appreciates that I was there. You know, we had 2 red warning days because of the weather. The school's closed. I still worked from home, doing things that needed doing, finding out things. Sending out messages to parents about various different things, and just doing my job and trying to hand over and finding all the different logins and technology and things that they need to be aware of, that somebody needs to take over when I'm not there. So there's this big like Excel spreadsheet of, these are all the different things. Who do you want to have managing that now? Because I need to pass it over to them. So I've been doing all that as well, but no, that's what it is. So we had that. I then was asked to just say from my point of view, you know, what's going on, how I'm feeling about it. And it was my opportunity to kind of justify staying at the school, which, to be honest, I could have tried to do, because the whole reason then I can give forward my case and say, right, these are the jobs I can still do. I think you need to keep me for this. They then take that back to the governing body, and they would make a decision and see if there's anything they can do. They may not be able to, and they don't have to, but they can at least, and they have to at least consider it and discuss it. I don't really have that. I'm quite understanding of the situation from a business perspective. So when I started the job, I was basically doing a website, and I came into the school then after building the website and doing a few other bits and pieces for them in like the Easter holiday. I came in and said, well, there's this I could do, there's that I can do, well, there's different information I can give you. And I started to find things that they weren't doing that they could do that would help them. And a lot of it was just collating data in a way that will help them move the school forward. They were in special measures, they were failing quite badly. There was a lot of behavioural problems, and the school is a special school, so we have pupils with behavioural problems and all sorts of emotional problems and everything else. So if they start getting dysregulated, it could mean a lot of incidents or violence and things like that. So there's a lot of those incidents they didn't really track. So I was gathering data of when these things would happen to each of the pupils, what time of day it was, what day of the week, month of the year, whatever situations around them, what people around them, which classes were they in, was it before lunch, after lunch, and all this data like that, and then combining that with attendance data and testing data, and all of this to try and give them a better picture of where the school is, where the kids are, where they need the best support. So I put all that into place, and they decided to keep me on full-time and created a job for me. So that was, and it was kind of like I created the role for myself, which was kind of nice. Unfortunately, that means now the school's not in special measures. All the stuff I put into place isn't needed in the same way. So when I first started, I said the behavioural incidents were 20 or 30 a month. We had as much as 60 in 1 month. So there was a lot going on. Now we have 1 or 2 a month. So all the data and the databases and all of that, and I was using Power BI to have all these nice graphs so you could then manipulate and change by pupil, by class, by day of the week, and have a look at the times and everything, all fancy stuff like that. I also have done it in Excel using what they call. I also did it in Excel using pivot tables and all that sort of thing. It's the same sort of thing, but often Power BI is easier for people to interact with because they don't see the raw data behind it and they can't manipulate the data. They can just manipulate what you put on screen. So you can have tables on there. You can have all sorts of different things to make it easier. So anyway, so add all of that. But it means now because they don't need all of that, I've kind of talked myself out of a job. So I've done all these things to get us to a good position. And it's like, oh, we don't need you now, which I understand. And I've had the idea that may happen at some point, if that makes sense. So, yeah, so that's where we are. And then the council, I gave a little bit of information about the redundancy, and what happens next. So we have the 20-day consultancy period, which finishes on the 15th of July. It then goes back to the governing body with anything that myself or the head have come up with, reasons for me to stay or things I can do, and that kind of nature. They then make a decision on the final redundancy, give me an end date. Fair enough. That makes sense. I asked the question, is the council looking for something else from me? Is there somewhere within the council I could be absorbed into or move across to? The answer was a flat no, which I didn't expect. I didn't expect them to necessarily have a job I can move into, but they're not even going to look, which is really odd when you think about it. So my pay comes from the council. I have emails from the council about well-being and so on. My meeting is with the council. But I'm not employed directly by the council. I'm employed by the governing body. So part of redundancy is the company or the people that employ you need to have a look if there's something else you could be doing within their scope of jobs. But because there's nowhere else for me to go in the school, because I'm not a teacher, I'm not a TA, there's no reason for me to move into one of those jobs. It's not what I do. It's not what I'm trained for. And the money isn't probably as good as I want anyway, but that's by the by. So because the governing body won't be able to find a job for me, there is no way I can stay and keep my pension going or anything else. So I am just out. So that was a little bit of a, oh, okay, that's wonderful. Not what I expected. But from the other perspective, I have been looking at other jobs outside of education. Firstly, I don't have any progression here. I have standard pay increases every year. The cost of living increase goes up every year. It's about 1,400 a year or something. It changes year by year, but there's that much each year. And as part of the council, they've got what's called a grade. So part of a grade, so the grades are like the banding of where your pay lies and what responsibilities you have. So say you're grade 6, there'll be, I think it's about 4 or 5 bands within that grade. Each year you go up to the next one and the next one and the next one until you get the top of that. And the idea is when you get to the top of that, you no longer get pay increases, because the view is you perform well at that level, you should then move to the next grade. Now, because of my position in the school is unique and I can't progress to assistant, head or anything like that because I'm not part of the teaching staff, there is nowhere for me to go. So once I reach the top of this grade, I'm stuck there and I just get the basic increase every year and I can't progress any further. So I have been looking at that. And also my son is 18 now. He's no longer in school. So I'm not worried about having holidays that match up with his school holidays. And it also means if I have holidays outside of school holidays, they're cheaper, which would be nice. So I have been looking at that anyway. So this is kind of like a kick up the arse to go and do that. So yeah, that's kind of where it is. So we went through a couple of calculations of, well, it was mentioned briefly how much I can expect to get for my redundancy, which I won't go into here. If people do want to know, and I'm trying to be an open book and be completely transparent with everything. But I'm just going to go through the basics, because it's slightly different from my job especially, and jobs in the council in general are different to statutory. So, okay, so I've made this little spreadsheet using Google Sheets because I don't want to pay for Microsoft. It's always free everywhere I've worked, so I'm not going to pay for it because I use it generally for work, and this is free and available and pretty much the same thing. So I've set out here. So there's a few caveats on this. As I said, this is for the UK and this is just statutory. So a different company may enhance this. The council, for instance, they will multiply it by 2, 3, 4 times, depending on how long you've been there and what your contract is. So it won't be the basic, they will enhance it. Some companies will. There is, however, a cap. There is a weekly cap of £751 a week. So if you earn more than that, I do, unfortunately, that is the maximum you can get weekly for your redundancy pay. It also depends on your age. So if you're under 21, you'll get half a week for every year in service. Between 22 and 40, you'll get 1 week pay for each year in service. If you're over 40, I obviously am, you get 1.5 weeks, which sounds pretty good. So this will just work out compared with the 750 week, the redundancy pay. I've also got notice pay there because you will have 4 weeks notice. That is kind of standard. You may have less. So once again, depending years in service. So I've got this to work out. The years in service will correlate with the notice pay. So if you've been there 2 years, your notice may only be 2 weeks. Sometimes they just bump it up to 4 weeks. Anyway, the council tends to do that. Other companies just say, oh yeah, it's standard. After you've been there a year, you get 4 weeks pay. So I'm just doing it on the basic. If you've got 1 year in service, you get 1 week notice pay and total payouts. So let's have a look. So if you've been there, say 1 year, 1 year full continuous year, not half a year, it has to be a year from start to finish. So you have to have completed a full year. Your redundancy would be £375.50. Notice pay, £751 because it's 1 whole week. Total payout, £1,126.50. If you're between 22 and 40, you can see it goes up to a full week. Total payout, £1,502. If you're over 40, it'll be £1,877 because you can see this, basically that and that. So that's not bad. So say, for instance, you've worked 3 years. Much better payments. £3,379.50, £4,506, £5,632.5. So it does scale with how long you've been there. There is a maximum, I think 20 years they'll do, and also 20,000 is the maximum, because the other thing to bear in mind, it's only tax on the notice pay, not the redundancy. The redundancy pay is tax-free up to, I think it's like 25,000, something like that. It changes from year to year. It usually goes down. So it's around 20,000 is the maximum you can get redundancy pay, not notice pay, redundancy actual payment. So that's this figure here. So say you had 20 years. 20. So if you hit the 20 years, that would then be taxed. So there is a difference there. Yeah, obviously you're not going to get 20 weeks notice. So that's where it falls apart. But I'm just doing basics. So if we just do back to the basic 4. Okay, so your notice pay as well. For my job, obviously, because I work in a school, they're closed over the summer. Usually I work some of the summer doing exams and so on, but I doubt that'll happen this year. So my guess at the moment, until it gets confirmed, is that my notice period finishes, not my notice, my consultation period finishes on the 15th. School closes on the 20th. That's the official closing date. We're not finishing that day, it's a Monday. We're actually finished on Friday the 17th. So I think my end date will be the end of term, which will be the 20th. I'll then get 4 weeks notice. But because the school is closed, there isn't any way for me to work or a job for me to do. They'll probably pay me notice instead of making me work notice. Other jobs you may have to work notice, and then you get your redundancy pay in your final month's pay. I'll get it in my month's pay as well. They may pay it early. I expect they'll probably pay it in the month's pay. So I'll get that then. So it may be my final payment will be my last month's pay, my notice pay, and my redundancy pay. I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting for council to kind of confirm that for me. But those are the different ways it can work. And this is the kind of the basic amount. I said with the council, the notice pay, they may enhance. So say I work 3 years and they'll then do that. They may multiply it by 2. So it'll be 4,506. So that's kind of basic. I think that's kind of, you know, what I work out as. The longer you're there, the more they'll pay you. So say I was there, 4 years, they may multiply by 4. So you may end up with a really good payment. So it depends how long you're there for. Stupid car alarm's gone off outside. Make sure it's not my car. Nope. Not my car. All good. So once again, it does depend on where you work, what your contract is, but this is kind of a basic understanding of what it is. The other thing to bear in mind, if you are having redundancy pay, if it's not being dealt with by the company you work for, you'll get, if you're just getting statutory redundancy pay and not enhanced redundancy pay. So enhanced redundancy pay is one that your company will deal with and they will pay you as part of your wage slip. If you're having statutory redundancy pay, you apply for that through the government. If you're doing that as well, you have to bear in mind that you're not permitted to work 4 weeks after you're made redundant. So when your last day, you have to wait 4 weeks before you can start another job, or you don't get the redundancy pay. So it's kind of, if you're not getting a lot of redundancy pay, you're probably better off starting a job. If you're getting lots of redundancy pay, you're probably better off waiting 4 weeks and then starting a new job. So, you know, if you're getting notice instead of, notice pay instead of working, then you're probably better off getting a new job and saying, I can't start till then, make sure it's 4 weeks after. So bear that in mind, please, that you only get the payment if you're out of work for 4 weeks. But, you know, go to the job centre, sign on, say you're out of work, and get what you can. You probably won't get anything, but it's better to do that so that your national insurance contributions keep going. Because while you're unemployed, as long as you're signed on with unemployment, even if you don't get any money, it means that the weeks you're out of work, you'll still be getting your national insurance contributions that go towards your pension. So that is vitally important. Make sure as soon as you have that end date, go to the job centre and just say, right, I'm losing my job on this date. I know what options are there. They may offer you training. They may offer you help writing your CV. Go and get the help. That is vitally important. Don't let it get you down. Redundancy happens now and then. I'm looking at it as an opportunity for me to go in a better direction, find a better job, find something that I enjoy doing, something that has a future, and that kind of thing. Use it like that. Don't look at it, oh, they don't need me, they got rid of me, I'm crap, I'm awful. Look at the positives. Go out and get the help that's there. There is support for you. Go and get it. Everyone out there is amazing. Remember how amazing you are, the things you can contribute. As I've said before, everything you do in every job or in everyday life, you can translate into work skills. Just look at what you're able to do. If you're able to talk to people, if you have great empathy, if you're good at attention to detail, good with numbers, there's so many things you can do that you don't even realize you can do. Just write down a list. Just get a piece of paper, write down, these are the things I can do, and try and correlate that to a job skill. And you'll find you can do amazing things. You don't even realize it. So just look at yourself and just go, right, I can do this. I enjoy this. I have a passion for this. Turn that into a job. So it was also Father's Day a couple of days ago. So as I said, I've got my son's 18 now, and we had a nice meal. We actually had a kebab and he paid for it, which was kind of nice. And I visited my family. My dad got him a couple of Ozzy Osbourne vinyls for Father's Day, which was quite nice, because he's a big Ozzy Osbourne fan. And my mum is as well, so she'll probably steal one. This is the Gods of Rock and Roll, his last single. She loves that song, so she'll probably steal that one off him, I expect, potentially. But I also had a gift and a card from my partner's kids. They're also adults, and it was really sweet. The card said about you're not my dad, but you kind of taught me what a dad can be, and everything you've done has been appreciated and been noticed, and it was just really, really nice. And they also got me a whiskey smoker, which I've been wanting to try, and I'll do a review on my channels about it. But it was just really nice, and it just made me think, I'm being made redundant. I'm not needed at my job, but I'm still needed as a partner and a father and a kind of an adult figure in people's lives. And it's just like, yeah, I'm worthwhile. It was kind of, it was nice. So it really puts things in perspective when you put the human element on it and family and so on. So yeah, that's where I am. So no redeployment, no council safety net. Me, my data, AI skills, and all the other stuff I can do. Not to blow my own horn, but I've been many places. I've got a clean slate, really. I can go anywhere, do anything. I'm good for the summer. I should be good most of September as well, so it's not like I'm in a rush. It is daunting. I don't have a plan. I don't have somewhere to go. I have to find that. It is what it is, but I'm looking at the silver linings, the good things about it, which I always try and do. I try and stay positive. Now, Mr. Silver Lining, that's the way to be. So let me know. Are you going through something like this? Have you been through this before? Have you started a job that sounded amazing in the interview and you got to the job and you absolutely hated it? It was nothing you expected. Let me know. Let's start some conversations about this. I'm going to continue this vlog. I'm going to document my journey of redundancy, finding a new job, and just living in my 50s. The aches and pains, the loss of loved ones and friends, and all the other things that happen as you get older. Job hunting is so much different now than when I was in my 20s. We have AI everywhere, and everything's read by AI before it goes to a real person. How do you navigate that? It's all over the place. But that's what I intend to do. Let me know what you think, or anything you'd like to discuss, and I'll bring it up. If there's questions you have, maybe you're coming into your 50s soon, or it's going to be a little bit way off and you're worried about it. Let's have a talk about it. I don't mind being open and honest about anything. That's what I'm here for, is to show it's not all bad. Some things are, getting old sucks, but maybe we can navigate together. Anyway, join me again soon. Till then, bye bye for now.